The spotlight flickers on as a barefoot young man in a simple white shirt and worn jeans steps onto the America's Got Talent stage. The audience goes silent. Simon Cowell looks up from his notes, eyes narrowing with curiosity. "Haven't we met before?" he asks. The boy smiles shyly. "Yes, sir," he replies softly. "I came here years ago, but this time, I came back, to honor my father." That single line sets the stage for a story of love, loss, and redemption that will touch millions of hearts. The morning sun peeked over the mountains of Cebu, casting golden light on a small wooden house that stood at the edge of the village. The rhythmic sound of hammer and nails echoed through the air, tock, 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 as if time itself was keeping beat with a simple man's devotion. That man was Ramon, a humble carpenter who built furniture by day and dreams by night. Beside him, his young son Andre watched intently, his tiny hands covered in sawdust. "Papa," he asked, "why do you always smile when you work?" Ramon chuckled, wiping sweat from his brow. "Because every swing of this hammer means we still have hope. One day, son, you'll build something bigger, not with wood, but with your heart." Andre didn't quite understand those words then. But he loved how they sounded, strong, warm, and filled with meaning. Their life wasn't easy. Meals were simple: rice, dried fish, and laughter. Their home had no luxury, but it had something richer: love that never complained. Every evening, when work was done, Ramon would pull out his battered old guitar, the one he'd kept since his own youth. He'd strum soft melodies under the starlit sky, and Andre would sing along, his voice light and untrained but full of soul. Neighbors would sometimes gather outside to listen, smiling as father and son made music that touched hearts more deeply than any song on the radio. One night, as a storm raged outside, the roof leaked and the candles flickered, but Ramon kept playing. "Music, Andre," he said, "is like faith. Even when life gets dark, it keeps shining." Andre's eyes gleamed as he sang, his young voice rising above the wind. In that moment, he made a silent promise, that someday, the world would hear their songs. But dreams in the province are often drowned out by reality. The next morning, his father was back to fixing chairs and sanding tables, humming to himself as if the stars of last night had followed him to daylight. Still, Andre remembered every note, every lyric, every word of his father's lessons, the kind that build more than houses, the kind that build hearts. That small wooden home in Cebu wasn't just a shelter. It was the birthplace of a dream that would one day echo across the world. Years passed, and the little boy who once sang under the stars had grown into a shy, soft-spoken 13-year-old. The rhythm of hammer and nails was still part of Andre's world, but so was music, the one gift his father never let him forget. Each morning, before heading to school, he would help his father in the workshop, sanding wood or fetching tools. But at night, when the village grew quiet, Andre would sit by the window with his father's old guitar and hum melodies he wrote himself. One day, while scrolling through an old cell phone his cousin owned, Andre saw a video of a Filipino contestant auditioning on America's Got Talent. The roar of the crowd, the glittering stage, the golden confetti, it felt like another universe. His heart raced. "Papa," he said that night, "one day, I want to sing there." Ramon smiled gently. "Then you must sing not for fame, but for truth. When you sing with truth, the world will listen." Months later, a community organizer announced auditions for AGT's global search. Encouraged by his father, Andre recorded a video, a trembling version of a song he'd written himself, called "My Father's Hands." It wasn't perfect, but it was real. To their surprise, a few weeks later, an email arrived: "Congratulations, Andre. You've been selected to audition in Manila for America's Got Talent." The entire village celebrated. Neighbors helped fund his trip, someone lent him a suit jacket. His father could barely contain his pride. "Remember," he told Andre at the airport, "you already have the greatest prize, courage." But when the day of the audition came, the bright lights overwhelmed him. His hands trembled, his voice cracked midway, and the judges kindly told him he wasn't ready yet. The crowd clapped politely, but his heart sank. Back in Cebu, his father welcomed him home with open arms and a warm smile. "You did what many only dream of, my son," Ramon said softly. "Dreams don't die when we fail, they die when we stop believing." Andre nodded, though tears filled his eyes. Deep down, he promised himself, one day, he'd come back. He just didn't know the price life would make him pay before that day came. The months after Andre's failed audition were quiet, almost too quiet. The laughter that once filled their little wooden home had dimmed. Andre continued helping his father in the carpentry shop, but something had changed, his eyes no longer danced with the same light. He still sang sometimes, but only when no one was around. The disappointment of that first audition clung to him like a shadow he couldn't shake off. Then, one evening, everything changed. Ramon came home from work pale and weak, coughing hard and clutching his chest. "Just tired, son," he whispered, forcing a smile. But within weeks, the cough worsened. The local clinic confirmed what they feared, a serious illness that treatment couldn't easily reach. Hospital bills piled up, and Andre watched helplessly as the strongest man he'd ever known began to fade. One night, as the rain poured and the sound of thunder echoed outside, Andre sat beside his father's bed. The guitar leaned against the wall, silent for days. Ramon took his son's hand and said in a trembling voice, "Don't let this be the end of your song, Andre. You were born to sing, not just for yourself, but for those who never get the chance to dream." Andre fought back tears. "But I failed once, Papa. What if I'm not good enough?" Ramon smiled weakly. "Then sing anyway. Even broken voices can move the world." Those were his last words before sleep took him, and a few days later, forever. The funeral was small but full of love. The whole village came, and many remembered the carpenter who built their homes with patience and heart. That night, alone in the workshop, Andre found his father's hammer and the cracked guitar resting side by side. He picked up the guitar and strummed gently, his voice trembling but steadying with each note. "I'll make you proud, Papa," he whispered. "I promise." Years passed, and the boy grew into a young man. He worked odd jobs. Fixing furniture, carrying wood, even singing at small events to earn extra money. Yet every night, he played that same old guitar, the strings worn but the sound alive with hope. Then one morning, his phone buzzed. A new message flashed across the screen. AGT Open Call Auditions, former contestants welcome back. Andre froze. His heart pounded. Maybe this was the moment his promise would finally find its voice. The lights of Los Angeles shimmered through the airplane window as Andre pressed his forehead against the glass, whispering a silent prayer. It had been nearly 6 years since he last stepped onto an America's Got Talent stage, but this time, he wasn't coming as a nervous boy. He was coming as a son keeping a promise. He still wore his father's old necklace, a small wooden cross carved from the same wood his father once used in their workshop. His guitar case, scratched, faded, but full of memories, was clutched tightly in his hands. As he stood backstage, surrounded by bright lights and chatter, his heart raced. He closed his eyes and imagined his father's voice, "Sing with truth, Andre. The world will listen." When his name was called, the audience quieted. The judges looked up, curious. Simon Cowell tilted his head. "You look familiar," he said. Andre smiled softly. "Yes, sir. I was here once, a long time ago." "What made you come back?" Simon asked. Andre hesitated, gripping the mic. "My father, he passed away. He was a carpenter. He taught me to build with love, and now I want to honor him with this song." The room fell silent. Then, Andre began to play. The first chord was soft, trembling, but full of heart. His voice, raw and soulful, carried through the hall like a prayer. The lyrics told the story of his father, a man whose hands built dreams for others, even when he had none left for himself. Every line was filled with memory, every note a whisper of love that refused to fade. As he reached the chorus, his voice cracked, not from weakness, but from emotion. Even when your hands can't build, your love builds me still. The camera panned to the judges' faces, Simon's eyes glistened, Sophia clasped her hands, and the crowd held its breath. When the final note faded, there was silence, a sacred, heavy silence, before the entire audience rose to their feet. Then, suddenly, a loud click. Simon Cowell pressed the golden buzzer. Golden confetti rained down as André stood frozen, tears streaming down his face. He looked up at the sky through the glittering lights and whispered, "We did it, Papa." And in that moment, it felt as though heaven itself was clapping along. The world woke up to André's story the next morning. Clips of his performance spread across social media like wildfire, the boy from Cebu who returned to America's Got Talent and made Simon Cowell cry. Headlines called him, the carpenter's son who built dreams, and millions around the world were moved by his song of love and loss. André sat quietly in his small hotel room, staring at his phone as the notifications poured in. Messages from strangers flooded his inbox, people saying his song helped them forgive, heal, or find strength after losing someone they loved. One message simply read, "Thank you for giving my pain a melody." He wept, realizing that his father's voice was still shaping the world, through him. When he returned to Cebu, the whole village gathered to welcome him home. The same dusty road that once echoed with hammer strikes was now filled with cheers. Children waved handmade banners, and old neighbors hugged him as if he were their own son. His mother, tears streaming down her face, whispered, "Your father would be so proud." André didn't seek fame. Despite offers from music labels and shows, his heart told him to do something else, something that would keep his father's spirit alive. Using part of his earnings and the donations sent from around the world, he began building a small music and carpentry school in their village. He named it the Ramon Center for Hope. Inside, children learned not just how to sing or play instruments, but how to dream, the way his father once taught him. The walls were decorated with lyrics from his song and photos from that golden buzzer night, shining reminders that greatness can grow from humble beginnings. One evening, as the sun dipped below the hills, André stood outside the center, watching the children laugh and sing. He picked up his father's old guitar and strummed the familiar chords of "My Father's Hands." The melody drifted through the air, soft and timeless. He looked up at the sky and smiled. "We're still building, Papa," he whispered. "But now, it's not just me, it's all of us." And as the golden light bathed the horizon, it felt as though somewhere beyond the clouds, a carpenter was smiling back.